Welcome everybody, good morning. Welcome to our webinar. This is the first session of webinars that we are organizing about high performance computing. By we, I mean Lux Innovation in partnership with Lux Provide and the University of Luxembourg. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ramona Caulé and I'm working at Lux Innovation, the Luxembourg Innovation Agency. And today I'm not the only one on stage. Here with me, there is Dimitri. Would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ramona. My name is Dmitry Klazovic, and today I represent Lux Provide, which is a company behind Operation Meluxina supercomputer, which is a world-class supercomputer located here in Luxembourg, and it's co-owned jointly with Euro HPC undertaking. And in addition to operating supercomputer, we offer tailor-made high-performance computing, data analytics, and artificial intelligence solutions.
Good.
Yeah, thank you. Back to you, Ramona.
Thank you, Dimitri. So we would like this webinar to be as much interactive as possible. So please don't hesitate to use the webinar toolbox on the right side of your screen. We have the chat box for technical questions or to introduce yourself and to be participative. Then we have the questions box where you can ask your questions about the content. Don't hesitate at any time to use it. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar where we will do our best to answer your questions. We have an anonymous poll, so please don't hesitate to have a look at the questions we prepared for you. We have 4 questions regarding how you are doing your business, if you're using planning and or automation or without, with or without forecasting in your business or activities. So we have a question also about if you are using AI, machine learning, or deep learning, or if your business or your activities generate or rely on processing massive volumes of data. And another one, if you are using simulations or modeling in your field of activities. Don't hesitate at any time to go there and see the questions, to answer the questions. We'll appreciate if you do that. We will see the responses at a certain, in a few minutes, how it's going. I see some of you are answering, and that's nice. Good. Then here in the toolbox of the webinar platform, you can also see the people that are attending with you this webinar session, and you will have the possibility to interact with them. Nice. While you are taking your time to respond to the questions, I will introduce to you the concept of the HPC webinar series we prepared for you. I'll give you an overview of the HPC Thursdays. So basically, we want to give you the basic concepts and what high-performance computing is, and also with the first session to give you an introduction of the benefits for your activities. So why you should care about HPC for your activities, and what HPC could bring to your business, to your research, or more in general to your activities. Then we'll continue with a second session where we introduce how supercomputer works and how to use them efficiently. Then we'll go with the following sessions into the methods that you could use supercomputers, mainly simulations for mimicking reality, and why you should use them for your business or for your research, and the HPC for artificial intelligence and high-performance computing data analytics to draw insights from large databases. We'll continue then into sessions that will see some use cases examples in different sectors. So for health, more specifically in personalized medicine. Then we'll have some HPC use examples for more humanities, so in digital history and for public administration. Then another HPC use example for finance. Lastly, but not not least important, we'll have the Luxembourg presenting the Luxina, unique business-oriented supercomputer. So they'll focus their business and HPC use for business, for companies and SMEs specifically. Good. Let's see the first results of the poll together. So we see that the majority of people here are not using planning or automation with or without forecasting. So there's a potential to go and explore that areas, and we'll see that together. Are you using AI, machine learning, deep learning? Well, a good amount of you, so 47% is using machine learning. That's good. You can improve and accelerate your machine learning activities with HPC. Then, does your business activity generate or rely on process massive volumes of data? Yes, you generate a lot of data. So 47% of you generate a lot of data. HPC can help you analyze that. Are you using simulations or modeling in your field of activities? Yes. Okay, so again, with HPC, you can have a boost. Good. Thank you for answering the questions. For those of you who haven't answered yet, don't hesitate. You have the time until the end of the session to share with us. Let's go into our presentation of today. So today, let's see the agenda. So I'm going to present you the benefits and impact of supercomputer, as the title of this session says. Then Dimitri will present you some HPC use case examples. Then at the end of the session, I'll give you an overview about the National HPC Competence Center and the services that we offer to help you approach the HPC and use it. And we'll answer your Q&A, your question in a Q&A session, and I will wrap up and close the webinar. So don't hesitate to take to input your questions in the Q&A tab, not into the chat, but in the Q&A, where you can also, other people can see your questions and vote your questions, so they will appear first in the ranking, and there will be more probability for us to respond them first. Good, so let's go into it. So science and innovation have undergone profound change over the years. But how exactly? Well, over thousands of years ago, science was empirical, describing what natural phenomena were, with Egyptian star lists, with distance information, or the Chinese, which created the star charts. Then, over the last few hundred of years, we tried to capture nature in terms of equations, starting with Kepler's law and general relativity. We wanted to use model and equations to generalize phenomena, to describe them. Over the last few decades, we've seen we started to use to use computers they become an essential part of our science and innovation processes. We use these computers to solve the equations we created in a few hundreds of years before, or others that we discovered to be new. And over the last few years, the science is increasingly driven by data. Everywhere we look, there was a data explosion, and there is still today, and we need a new approach to be able to exploit this data, to experiment and compute with advanced data management and statistical methods. But how to be able to serve this wave of data that we see exploding? Well, HPC can help us to find insights into these data explosions. But first, what's HPC? Well, HPC refers to the practice of aggregating computing power in a way that so that it delivers much higher performance than a typical computer, desktop computer workstation that you are using and I am using today, in order to solve larger problems in science, engineering, and business. So high performance will obtain high performance in terms of computing power, in terms of from the graphical point of view, and also higher performance from the access and exchange point of view of data, so uploading, downloading, and communicating with data between themselves. Nice, Ramona, but you could argue. And the cloud? Well, in comparison with the cloud, HPC allows for a next level optimization of the computing power resources, first of all. Second, HPC is more secure. It is in one location and nowhere, while generated cloud resources are distributed and you don't always know where they are. And third, when you have a really large amount of data, cloud might not be fast enough and sometimes costlier than HPC. So HPC and aggregating computing power is like basically it's putting together a lot of computers. Of course, it's not like putting them and connecting them with a wire, but they are built to communicate better between them, to be really connected in a high speed. And all this allows for processing huge volumes of data at really high speed. As we mentioned before, HPC can solve large problems in science, engineering, or business, but what kind of problems? Well, simulations and modeling allow for improved design of products and testing of material properties, for instance, in research. So limiting the physical prototyping and testing process, but doing it digitally, so moving it to digital to HPC, makes this design process quicker and less expensive. HPC is also more and more used for data analysis, for instance, satellite data, drones data, from smart manufacturing, and also from social media. So successful companies today are being built on the ability to connect, analyze, leverage this data, and supercomputers are a necessity to analyze these massive amounts of data. Then with deep learning is a great match for using HPC for problems that commonly HPC can solve, involving very large multidimensional data sets. These include tasks like pattern classification, pattern clustering, and anomaly detection. For example, deep learning on HPC systems can help identify fraudulent credit card transactions or help predict which patients are at risk of heart disease. For AI, I have a nice everyday example for you. So you may have watched Netflix sometimes. All the Netflix the recommendations algorithm leverage HPC resources remotely to offer you personalized suggestions. So imagine the huge amount of data that Netflix users produce all over every day, and how all this data improve the AI algorithm behind the suggestion. Then prediction and forecasting. We enable to predict behavior of external phenomena that you can't control, such as weather or the stock market trends. These techniques are especially widespread and known for predictive maintenance and weather forecasts. Optimization is a major HPC use case. It's used for from portfolio optimization to process optimization in the manufacturing and also for other manufacturing challenges facing industry today. So these are some examples of what kind of problems you can solve with HPC. But let's delve into the benefits I promised you to show today from two selected studies. One from the Council of Competitiveness and Intersect 360 Research. So let's focus first on this one. This study analyzes the benefits of supercomputing investment for US industry, but it can be applied to other companies around the world. So let's see together what the studies conclude. So from the study results emerged that HPC is not just for a few selected sectors, but HPC is widespread across a broad range of markets, from financial services and insurance to energy to IT and software systems, software companies, manufacturing, professional services, and also media entertainment, as you can see, or chemical and consumer products. Companies in this research, in this study, were also able to share data about their annual HPC budget, which ranged from under 50K per year, so $50,000 per year, to over 10,000 K per year. So we see that this budget differentiations reflects also a broad range of expertise and scale of usage of HPC by these companies. In fact, they are their HPC usage starts from a modest entry-level HPC infrastructure, generally small cluster dedicated to for individuals or small groups that are using them, to mid-range HPC, so single rack, the vertical compartments you see in data centers or supercomputers. You may have seen a picture before, to high-end HPC, so this means an entire full rack, and to supercomputers where you have multiple racks, so multiple vertical compartments where all these computing resources are stored. So as we've seen, the budgets for every company and might differ depending on their needs. HPC is highly modular, I can conclude. So the study assessed also the importance of HPC to the organizations that were involved in the studies, primarily to a series of agree, disagree statements from 1 to 5, and strongly disagree to strongly agree. So it's nice, it's important to notice that, to remark, there is not a single statement that does not get strong agreement in the survey. Companies assessed and affirmed that HPC is important for their competitiveness, with more than 70% of them strongly agreeing with this statement. HPC is important for solving problems they couldn't solve otherwise, with 80% of them agreeing with the statement. HPC is important for companies also for high quality design, manufacturing, and analysis that we're able to do with HPC, so with more than 70% agreeing with this. And HPC is important for companies for their cost-effective R&D, with again more than 70% agreeing with this, and for speed and accuracy with over 80% agreeing with this statement. It should be noted also that the likeliness to agree with the statements goes up with the respondents' level of HPC experience. So those that didn't agree or they were neither agreeing or disagreeing were mostly in the entry level group of HPC users. And what about HPC in the future? Will it be still relevant? Well, companies were asked whether they foresaw any need for additional computing power capacity and whether the capacity could be twice or 5 times, 10 times, 100 times their current usage. We see that only 11% actually of respondents felt that they won't require any increase in size of their capacity or HPC resources they need over the future 5 years. Conversely, over 60%, and it's an important percentage of respondents agreed that their most probably will need twice or 5 times the capacity in the next 5 years. And over 57% agreed that they could use 100 times more performance capacity and capacity needed in the next 5 years. So and we see here that those people that neither agree or disagree, we have a consistent amount of people that agree or disagree, and might be that they don't know yet, or they are just, again, there is a correlation with the people that are in the entry-level usage of HPC. Lastly, HPC users were asked to pick the single and most effective metric to justify the usage of HPC. And what came out that time to solution and inability to solve the problem by any other means were the top 2 responses that the respondents chosen. But what is more instructive, in fact, from this graph, is to look at the distribution. There is not any response that is viewed as the best across all industry. HPC, in fact, is individual to the organization, and companies tend to deploy HPC in areas that are most strategic for their respective organizations. Let's go to the second study to see quantitative analysis, where we see how much is the output from the HPC investments. So this research, it's a Hyperion research from 2020. It examines both the financial benefits and the impact of scientific and innovation discoveries made by HPC systems. So this analysis uses 2 methods. One is the return on investments. It quantifies how much was invested in HPC and what's the output as revenues, profits, or cost saving or jobs created. And the second model is return on research as the importance, measured as the importance and impact of innovation. So we see that return on investment is applied to more than 170 projects, and return on research method is applied to more than 500 projects. So the pool of projects that is being analyzed here come from private and public, so from academia, government, and industry. And if we look at the industry, we see almost an equivalent amount or equilibrated amount of projects in the ROI and the ROR methods, with the industry that accounts for almost 40% of the total projects analyzed in this study. But let's see the results. So what are the results of the ROI method they use? So they discovered that for each dollar invested in HPC, the output was on average more than $509 of revenues, or otherwise measured as on average $47 of profit or cost savings. Impressive, right? And if we look at the overall 175 projects analyzed with this method, more than 2,000 new jobs were created. So there is huge potential out there. If we look at the research on return on research methodology, we see that innovation here was measured by importance and impact. The study created an innovation class index rating these two measures. So the importance of innovation compared to all other innovation in their specific field, and the impact of the innovation to multiple organizations. And we can see that innovation are well distributed, across the index, with many that are in class 3, 4, and 1. Nice, but what does it mean? So let's see what does it mean. All the innovation that fall in class 4 are one of the top 5 innovation in their field in the last 10 years. Plus, they were useful to over 5 organizations. And all the innovation using HPC falling in class 4, they are one of the top 10 innovation in a field over the last 10 years, plus it was useful to over 5 organizations. So we see that HPC can bring also a high return on research, helping researchers and also innovations that engage in research projects to excel. So all in all, what can take out from this, from these two research and studies that I presented and selected for you today? Well, HPC, we've seen it's an enabler of innovation, and the research on the return on research, it demonstrated it. HPC can drive significant financial returns, and the ROI, so return on investment, demonstrated it. And HPC could apply to a wide range of sectors, not just manufacturing, not just the most common ones, but you can apply them to every kind of sector you can think about. HPC resources can be adapted to different levels of need. So HPC is highly modular. You can choose how much resources you need to compute your analysis and simulations. And lastly, HPC is critical nowadays, and it will be even more in the future. In fact, the amount of data, as you may know already, doubles every 2 years, and there is more and more data everywhere, and we use on average just 5% of it. There is huge potential and exploitation of this data need to be incorporated into business models of companies. And HPC is a key tool in the toolbox of the organization to be able to exploit this huge explosion of data. So these are the 5 takeaways that you should keep in mind from these 2 studies that I presented to you today. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A section, in the question section. We will take them at the end of the session. But now I will leave the floor to Dimitri to present some use cases examples for you in different sectors.
Thank you, Ramona. So indeed, here at Luxprovide, in addition to having a world-class infrastructure, the supercomputer Meluxina, and also having a team, a very capable team of offering cutting-edge solutions. So another property that we are very much focused on industries, and that is why in every project, we always think about the benefits for industries and parameters like revenues, cost savings, return on investment is something what we always keep in mind for every particular project. So from my experience, HPC can apply it literally everywhere in all kind of sectors. Today, I would just like to pitch 3 examples just to give you a sense of what kind of projects HPC can be applied and what kind of benefits it can lead to. My first example is in manufacturing, and this particular project is a research project that was funded by the National Research Fund of Luxembourg, and it's collaboration between Ceratizit Group, which is quite well known and quite old. I guess it has more than 100 years of history, together with University of Luxembourg researchers. And the focus of this particular project is on virtual prototyping, which in this particular case, the design was done for hydraulic powder press, but it can be obviously applied to prototype any artifacts that we would like to produce to develop a virtual prototype. It can be a vehicle tire or any other product. So the idea of virtual prototyping is to replace costly and time-consuming prototyping process of building a physical product and trying some particular properties with realistic simulations that would allow us, that would be very closely matching reality. So on one side, that's why usually the models are complex and require a lot of computing to be done. But it opens a possibility to use very big ranges of input parameters that is completely impossible to or infeasible to perform using actual physical prototyping. And in this particular example, so the use of HPC allowed to reduce the simulation time from 4 months to 2 weeks, and at the same time, which converted into an advantage of having a reduced time to market. And obviously, reducing from 4 months to 2 weeks in a pipeline fashion for all the designed products is a very important competitive advantage for companies. Going to the second example, this is something applied to financial technology, something very relevant to Luxembourg. In case of investment into private equity funds, there is a big problem when limited partners commit capital, so the committed capital is irrevocable, but at the same time it stays committed and is used only gradually as the investment opportunities come. So there is the trade-off between the capital which has been committed. So this is the overall capital from each limited partner, and the capital which was actually invested in bringing some interest, some return, generating return in the fund. And it's a very complex problem, given the in case of the number of investments, the number of companies, private companies the fund is investing into, and the number of limited partners committing different amounts of capital. So in this particular example, there was used reinforcement learning technique to discover reliable commitment policies that can be then enforced or proposed by the fund managers, which are essentially dictating or suggesting the size and the timing of capital commitment and calling. And the idea is to optimize returns while maintaining the key performance indicators of the fund, which is the such as return on investment, or for example tax optimization. And this was a project done between the European Investment Bank and the researchers from the University of Luxembourg. Very successful outcomes. Going to the last example, it's from interesting field of video gaming, and in this particular example, there was one SME, a small enterprise, which was focused on the design of 3D models for games. And as this market right now is very dynamic and vast, and models keep coming, and habits and preferences of the users keep changing all the time. So in this project, the HPC was used to analyze data from gaming portals. An example is Steam, where games can be acquired and played online. It's one of the best known portals, but not the only one. There are many other. And data from social networks, so vast amounts of data were analyzed. And two solutions have been developed. So one is recommendation engine that was used internally by the company to understand which models get preferences this time or the other, and how user preferences shift. And second was analytics dashboard for 3D models, also to help to pick up the right products for the development. And HPC had to be used because the amount of data was vast. At the end, the database was contained almost 1 billion entries that had to be analyzed. And in this particular example, this SME achieved an increase in turnover, a yearly turnover, and it helped to generate additional 10% of the growth rate over several years. So I hope this gave a small glimpse of what can be done, and probably the main message is that it ranges from manufacturing to game development to all kinds of field. So in every industry sector, there are cases, very successful cases, where HPC can be used to create competitive advantage on a sustainable level for businesses. Thank you. Ramona, back to you now.
Thank you, Dimitri. Nice presentation of use cases examples, and we will present more use cases examples in the next sessions as well, for you to grasp what is possible to do with HPC. I just encourage you to type your questions in the question tab, not in the chat. And now I'll take another few minutes to present you the Luxembourg National Competence Center in High Performance Computing, High Performance Data Analytics, and AI, and support you can get to use HPC. So the National HPC Competence Center is the contact point in Luxembourg for high performance computing and data analytics. And we are also part of a network of national competence centers in HPC across Europe, with whom we exchange knowledge, expertise, and also organize events together. But let's focus first on what is the National Competence Center in HPC here in Luxembourg. So Lux Innovation, Lux Provide and University are part of set up this National HPC Competence Center. You may know Lux Innovation, the Luxembourg Innovation Agency offering support to companies for their research and development and innovation projects, and exploring funding opportunities in Luxembourg or in Europe. Then we have Lux Provide, part of the National Competence Center in HPC. They have their own infrastructure, HPC system called Meluxina, the national supercomputer. And they provide not only access to the HPC system, but also to support to use it from expert engineers. And they focus on industries and SMEs. Then we have the University of Luxembourg. They also have their own HPC systems, IUN and IRIS. They are offering education and training. They have domain experts and scientists that are using HPC. Their pool of users is more than 1,500. And they focus on excellence and science. So their HPC systems are mainly used for research. So beyond the availability of supercomputers in Luxembourg with Meluxina and the university HPC systems, the National Competence Center wants to ensure an optimal use of these supercomputers, offering a holistic approach with operational support, technical support, financial support to establish and set up research and development projects, and also connecting you to other initiatives in Luxembourg, such as Gaia-X or the Data Exchange Platform, or at the European level with other HPC initiatives. But basically, what kind of support services do we offer? So we offer business support to identify opportunities where you can use HPC. We offer support to explore funding opportunities to help you set up the R&D projects, and if you need a partner search in Luxembourg or Europe. We offer technical support with feasibility studies or establishing proof of concepts. And of course, accessing the HPC resources, but not only. Lux Provide especially offers IT support at all levels to be able to exploit these HPC resources. And we also want to help you develop skills to be able to use HPC resources, from training courses in HPC to hands-on lab to be able to try out how to use HPC, to customer and domain specific workshops organized by Lux Provide. And we also have an European outreach and possibility to explore international collaboration if you need international partners, and also to connect you with European HPC initiatives that are out there. So Lux Innovation is your single point of contact. If you don't know where to start from, we are here to help you. We offer a broad range of services, to identify database opportunities, to define your R&D innovation projects, to find partners, to facilitate the contact with Lux Provide and the University of Luxembourg expert scientists, and to advise you on suitable financial support measures. We also host the Luxembourg Digital Innovation Hub. It's a support for digitalization of companies and to make you HPC ready in case you need this step before. Thank you for being with us until now. Now I will open the Q&A session, and we'll explore your questions in the Q&A chat. And if you haven't typed it yet, please take the opportunity to type your questions here in the live in the Q&A section. So I see we have already some questions. Let's take the most voted one. Not arguing about security and compliance, but is it really verifiable, correct, that the local solution offers better performance than the HPC offer from Amazon or Microsoft Azure? Well, I will try to respond, and Dimitri will complete in case he would like to add more. So yes, HPC is more secure, especially here in Luxembourg with Meluxina. They applied different security measures to be compliant with the IPR rights of companies. They want to be protected, and they want to protect their companies want to protect their IPR rights, and in many cases the clouds, when you have huge amounts of data, the uploading and downloading of your data after the analysis could take more time than what it takes with a local HPC. But I leave the floor to Dimitri to complete.
Thank you, Ramona. The question is about, is our local solutions offer better performance than the HPC offer from Amazon or Microsoft? The answer is we can get the performance needed for each particular application. What we can also do is, if needed, so for a short period of time, we can go as much as the whole supercomputer being dedicated to one or just a few tasks in terms of performance. Also to mention that supercomputer centers and supercomputers are constantly ranked, and Meluxina was ranked quite high. I believe it was ranked on the 36th place by performance by top 500 computers in last June. But for example, on energy efficiency, it was the first in Europe and the fourth in the entire world. But also, I guess the question is not only about performance, but also about the price performance ratio. And I should say that our offer is quite competitive, and in many cases we are better than Amazon and Microsoft. It's difficult to say because it's not a single number or a single value, like how much is a compute hour and so on. It has multiple dimensions, each project, including storage, including compute nodes, type of nodes, including GPUs, CPUs, FPGAs, and so on and so forth, the use of backup, the use of support and engineering solutions teams. And basically, we offer full-fledged of services end-to-end to help our customers, depending on their level. They can be newbies to HPC, and we would guide them through all the stages and provide the required support. Or they can be already experts in having highly expertised teams. Then we adapt the offer. But generally speaking, yes, so we try to be better than Amazon and Microsoft on performance, on pricing, and on security, and on the way we work with customers.
Perfect. Hope we answered your question, and it was complete enough. Then let's take another question, given that we have some more time. So given the scale of a typical HPC use case, how big a company's data usage or scale needs to be for it to be an HPC contender? Would you like to take this one, Dimitri, as well?
Yes, definitely. So I think it was even one slide during the presentation that independently on the size of the budget, HPC is available for projects of any size. It can be a small or multi-million project. Speaking about the question focuses on data usage, but I think it's the projects are not only about data. Data is only one dimension. So high performance data analytics, what we do, artificial intelligence. Another part is focused on compute. And for example, typically what we do with many companies is we first engage in a small pilot, which is a pilot project, which is limited. It can be just focused on compute and contain almost no data. So just computing simulation models, or it can be focused on data or both, or mix of them. But the idea is to, with this small pilot project, to make a proof of concept. We can show what we can do. The companies can experience our services, and at the same time, the company will have a proof of concept to understand if they would like to go further with a bigger project, bigger commitment.
Perfect. Thank you for your answer, Dimitri. Then we have other questions. Is it possible to share the PowerPoint with us? So after this session, we will receive an automatic email with the registration of this webinar. So you can re-watch it and also see the slides. But in any case, you can contact me if you would like this PowerPoint to be shared with you personally. Then we have another question. Hello, I'm connecting from Turkey. How can I join the ecosystem, and is it possible to have time slot in HPC systems? Thank you. I will leave this to Dimitri as well.
Definitely. So we have capacities. Just reach out to us. The idea would be to discuss what kind of project you would like to run in terms of the size of resources needed, and we will come back to you with an offer. Good.
Thank you. So don't hesitate to contact us. I don't see any other questions here in the questions tab. But don't hesitate in any case to contact me after this webinar session. I will leave you in the last slide my contact detail, and we can set up a meeting to discuss your HPC project you have in mind, or to explore the possibility of using HPC for innovation that you have in mind. Oh, I see another question popping up in the meantime. Any climate sustainability use case for HPC? Definitely, we'll have them for the next session. We prepared something for you and we'll present you some sustainability use cases to inspire you in the next session. So don't hesitate to register for the next one. Good. Let's wrap up. And leave you with some takeaway messages. So what you should keep in mind after this webinar session, and what is HPC for? So HPC is for simulations. If you want a higher level of resolution and granularity of your problem to solve, so problem size could be high. HPC is for high volume of data in the order of several gigabytes. HPC is for speed. If you want reduce time to solution, you have iterative simulations and you need to run them after the other, so you don't need to wait too long to run one after the other. And HPC is not only for big companies and for research, but it's also for any kind of company. And we've seen there is a huge database of a European project that's called for Euro HPC. It's a collection of HPC use cases of just SMEs applying HPC to their business. You see what kind of challenges they faced, how HPC helped, and what were the benefits for them that HPC brought. So these are the takeaway messages, and I invite you to register for the next sessions we prepared for you. Next one will be on 3rd of February, where we introduce how HPC works and how to use this HPC supercomputing power efficiently. I will just share with you my contact details in case you would like our contact details. In case you want to contact us to discuss your ideas or to see how we can help you to explore HPC applied to your activities, both business, research, and more generally to your activities. So I think it's time to conclude our session today. Please join us to the next sessions, and thank you for again for staying with us until the end. I say goodbye and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.